Good evening, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to Courtroom Insider. I'm Nate Eaton coming to you live from Phoenix. Tonight, I thought I'd be talking to you all about opening statements, the first witnesses in the Vallow Daybell trial, what evidence was presented in front of the jury. It's not to be. I don't have any of that to say tonight. I'm going to talk about what did happen today. It was an interesting, memorable day. I don't think that those of us who were there will ever forget it. I don't think the judge will. I don't think the prosecution will. I don't think Vallow Daybell will. I don't think the reporters will. I think it was a day that we will remember. And I am glad that you were here with us. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments below. We'll get to those a little bit later on today, and we will just take it as it comes. Today, Lori is sick and in a wheelchair. And we have a lot to talk about. First off, motions denied. We have some updates on the motions. We talked a little bit about this last night, but we have the official paperwork. It's a sick day, days plural, I should say, not just tonight, but tomorrow as well. Mike Watkiss reacts. Remember Mike, the journalist who has covered all sorts of criminals? I interviewed him a few weeks ago. He interviewed the Night Stalker. He's been the #1 reporter on the Warren Jeffs FLDS investigation. He's here. He was in court today. I think you're going to want to hear his reaction to what played out and if he really thinks that Vallow Daybell is sick or not. Also, Rachel Smith called up the prosecutor after the fact. We had her on last night, and I know some of you had a couple of questions. We're following up with her tonight. What now? What if Lori is sick all week? What does that do to this trial and this pool of jurors who are just kind of hanging out in limbo? Also, we have your questions answered. So we'll get to all of it tonight. Let's kick off by the motions that were denied in Lori's case. I don't want to spend too much time on this because there's other stuff to talk about. But basically, every motion she filed that we talked about earlier, one was the Jeep. She believes that the evidence pertaining to the Jeep should be precluded or not included in the trial because she says that the warrant that Detective Hermosillo obtained it without a warrant, and that the information on the warrant may have been wrong. Prosecutor responded and said, no, he had a warrant, but the year was wrong on the Jeep, and then it was corrected. And then the judge came out with a ruling and said the evidence is allowed in. The evidence was legally obtained and everything is fine. So that motion was denied. She had another motion that she thought one of the witnesses from the police department should be precluded from testifying because of something that happened in December of last year. And this person no longer works for the police department. And the judge responded and said, whatever happened in December of this past year should not be allowed into the trial because it has nothing to do with this case. It has to do with other issues. But she can testify about her investigation into the case back when this broke in 2019. So that is allowed in. And then there was other evidence that Lori did not want the text messages and cell phone data in between Alex Cox and I believe Charles Vallow, some of those things. She said that it was hearsay. The judge said it wasn't hearsay because it involved the actions of Vallow Daybell herself in those conversations. So those will be allowed in, and that was the other motion that was denied. So the judge is up to date on all of the motions that Lori Daybell has filed, and the trial will continue perhaps as normal. Let me refresh you as far as what happened Friday. Friday and Thursday really is when they went through the questionnaires for the jury. And then Friday is when all of the questionnaires, all of the jurors who passed the questionnaires and advanced were brought down to the courthouse in person for in-person questioning. And then in the afternoon, what was supposed to happen is this pool of, I believe, 68 were going to be questioned, and they were going to whittle that down to 16. Well, Lori Daybell was not feeling well. She said she was not feeling well. And so the judge said, how many of you cannot come back Monday? And out of the 68, around 54 said they could return today. So he dismissed them all and said, the 54 that can come back, please come back Monday morning at 10. And he told Lori herself, if you are sick, please let us know on Monday. Well, we had the weekend. She had the rest of Friday. She had all day Saturday. She had all day Sunday. Imagine being sick in jail, by the way. I cannot imagine a worse place to be sick and try to recover in it than in a jail when all you want is a comfortable bed and, a bath or something. Anyway, that's beside the point. So this morning comes, we check in. I check in with the court to say, is things still happening? And I'm told that, yeah, she's been brought down to the courthouse. Court is going to happen. Go down there. There's a lot of people there today. Nice to meet many of you from all over the place. A couple drove from Texas or flew in from Texas, others from Utah, from Idaho, just all over the place, Arizona. And we went into court. Well, what happened was all of the jurors were congregated, and then they let in the reporters first. And we all sat on the back row. And right when we walked in, the judge was already conversing with Lori about her health, about how she was feeling. At that moment, I didn't quite see, and I don't think any of us saw that she had been wheeled in on a wheelchair because she was already at the table. It was only when she went to take a break with her defense counsel that we saw them wheel her out with a sheriff's office wheelchair. And then she came back in. And when she was wheeled out, she kind of went out like this, head down, head in her hand. When she came back, she was like this. And then when she left again, she was like this. All of this happened outside of the presence of the jury, which is how we were able to get a video copy of it, because we're not allowed to film jury proceedings. And so the camera was not rolling on this. So we asked the court after the fact if we could get a copy of the proceedings. And let me just play it for you in case you missed it earlier. I put it on our YouTube channel. But here's how it played out. The quality's awful. These are the court cameras. There's multiple boxes. The audio's good, which is honestly what matters. But you can kind of hear and play out. Lori is on this box right here. She is on the end. No, she's right there in the middle. So you can't really tell that she's in the wheelchair. This is the prosecutor's box. This is the judge up top. This is the witness stand. And then anyone that joins in via Zoom are there. Brandon Boudreaux and his wife were in court today. And let me just play out exactly what happened.
All right, this is the time set for continuing jury selection, State of Arizona versus Vallow Daybell. CR 2022-001242. Appearances, please.
Attorney Kay, on behalf of the state and for the record, the victim is in the victim room.
All right. Ms. Daybell?
No, in the courtroom, sorry.
Lori Daybell for the defense.
All right, are we ready to proceed with jury selection?
No,
Why not?
I'm sick, Your Honor. I've been sick all weekend. I let my team know yesterday I was sick.
Can you please pull the microphone a little closer? I can't hear you very well.
I'm sick. I've been sick.
Have you put in tank orders to get treatment?
Yes.
Are you being housed in the infirmary?
Nope. I'm housed where they put people in quarantine anyway. I'm housed alone. They would not move me from where I am.
Have they tested you for any communicable diseases?
No.
All right.
You asked me to let my team know. I let them know yesterday at 9 a.m. that I was still
Well,
very ill.
Sometimes we're in positions where we have to proceed when we feel under the weather.
It's not just under the weather. I'm very ill.
Do you have copies of tank orders you put in for treatment?
Not with me. I put it in on the tablet.
Is the DO able to check whether any tank orders were put in?
I can pull down their judge, but I don't know when she put it in.
What's that?
I think it takes about 24 hours.
They haven't even answered my tank order yet. It takes them a long time.
So what symptoms are you having?
I have a terrible headache. I have nausea. I have chills. I have a fever, probably. I haven't been able to keep very much down besides broth and oranges.
Would you be willing to have one of your advisory councils complete the voir dire process, jury selection?
Would that waive my ability to represent myself for the rest of the trial?
No.
Then can I have a moment to discuss with them for a second?
A couple things. I'm your trial judge. My instructions are to complete your second trial. So even if for some reason your sickness worsened and we weren't able to complete this trial and had to declare a mistrial as this trial, even if this case got delayed into June or July or August to be reset, I'd still be your trial judge. Additionally, last time we did jury selection in your first trial, as I recall, you asked between probably about 5 and 10 minutes of follow-up questions of the panel before we sat the jury. I only mention that in the context of not a lot of it is expected of you at this point in the trial. Depending on how you're feeling later, we could talk about whether the opening statements would have to be further bumped to tomorrow. But I would like to keep this trial on track. So if you want a few minutes to talk to your advisory council, we can do that. Is there anything the state wants to put on the record before we do that?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Do you want to do that back in the tank? All right, we'll be recessed for a few minutes.
All right.
Please be seated. All right, we're back on the record. State of Arizona versus Daybell, CR 2022-001242. The state is present. The defendant is present. Ms. Daybell.
I did discuss with my advisory council. They are not comfortable doing that. I do have a right to represent myself. I'm sorry that I'm sick. I did not plan on getting sick. I did not try to get sick. This isn't anything to do with anything other than the fact that I'm incapable of going forward and doing a good job representing myself. I've been incarcerated for over 5.5 years. I've only ever been sick one other time in the whole time I've been here.
All right. State want to be heard?
Judge, obviously, if the defendant is sick and she does have a right to represent herself, we understand that. The concern is the state does need a date certain when we're starting. I have witnesses that I rescheduled already once to fly in this week, assuming we were starting today. I obviously will need to reschedule them again. I can't keep rescheduling them every single day onto a new flight. So I am not sure how we want to proceed at this time. If we want to give the defendant a couple days, see if this jury is available to extend out to the 25th. I know we had originally talked about that, and begin on Wednesday. I don't know if she will feel better by then, but that's the only suggestion I have at this time, other than starting all over again at another date.
Is there a reason I couldn't proceed with some of the oral voir dire this morning? Because other than introducing herself, she wouldn't be expected to do anything this morning, and that way we can at least get rid of some of the jurors that, for whatever reason, would need to be excused.
Judge, my concern is she's in a wheelchair now.
Well, I would probably ask to have her sit in a regular seat and not be in a wheelchair that says MCSO across the back of it.
I am just not capable of going or even sitting here. I need to be laying down. I need to be getting better so that I can go forward and actually represent myself. I hope that I feel better this week and we can go forward. I can't give you any promises. I can't control any of this.
All right, I'll take the state's suggestion and try to salvage this jury in this trial. I'm sure these jurors are going to be none too happy coming down today again for a dry run.
Judge, I do have one other. I don't know if we're able to, and I understand this is Judge Kemp's courtroom. If we can start earlier for the rest of the week and next week at 10, maybe take an hour for lunch. It's just ways to try to.
Yeah, I would be willing to do that. So for Friday, I have nothing else, and Judge Kemp has nothing. We could start at 9 on Friday.
And I know we have at least one juror that we will have to excuse who was going camping on Friday.
Yeah, juror number 4, I think.
Yeah.
My schedule, we could start at 10 on Wednesday. Let me check Judge Kemp's courtroom schedule. I think he looks like he'll be done by 9:30 at the latest, so I think we'd be safe on telling the jurors to come back 10 a.m. Wednesday, get the jury picked, opening statements done. All right, I think I do need to bring the jurors in to tell them something, so can we have Ms. Daybell sit in a regular chair and not and bring the wheelchair out into the hallway?
Yeah, try and take some.
I don't think that I can even sit here. I need to go lay down. I don't understand. I don't think, last time you said it was going to be 15 minutes, it was an hour and a half where I was sitting here trying not to throw up on TV in front of the jurors.
Which maybe we could, all of us leave and they could come in and just speak with you.
That's fine.
I've had that happen before where none of the parties are here and the court just advises that we're unable to proceed
Your Honor,
today.
I don't know about you rescheduling this for Wednesday. It puts a lot of pressure on me to be better and ready for Wednesday, and if I'm not, I don't like to disappoint people. I don't like putting people out of their way, all the jurors and all these things, and all the pressure is on me. That's not going to help me get any better anytime soon.
What is your suggestion?
I don't know, but I'm saying so tomorrow, if I'm not better and I let my team know, are you going to drag me in here like you did today with the team that came to get me? Do you know they felt so sorry for me to have to get dragged out of bed to be here?
Yeah, the answer is yes. I probably will order that you be here Wednesday. We'll take tomorrow off. Because I need to confirm how you're feeling. You because you represent yourself, no one else can waive your own appearance.
You're welcome to come over to the jail and come to my cell and see how I'm doing in there.
All right, I'll take a pass on that. All right, with the consent of the parties, then we'll have the parties exit. I'm going to tell the jury we're going to try to get this done on Wednesday. Obviously, that depends on whether the defendant's feeling better or not. We will, I'll tell them to be here ready to go at 10 a.m. Wednesday unless they hear something else. So I'll go ahead and ask the parties to exit. We'll keep the FTR running for the.
Okay, so that is when the parties exited. Lori exited with her team. Well, she was wheeled out. Her attorneys left. The prosecutor left, and then the jury was brought in. The jurors, and they were all seated. And Judge Boreski, we don't have video of that because it involved the jury. Before I tell you what he said, many of you are asking what's tank and what's a tank order. According to the Maricopa County Correctional Health Services, tank is a holding area or a waiting room. So they call it the tank. There's a tank right outside the courtroom where Lori will wait before she comes into court. And then in the jail, there's tanks that are isolated areas. She's already isolated areas. She's already in isolation. She's already in segregation because of her high profileness. The tank order is an inmate request form for books, legal forms, or religious material, etc. So it sounds like she has to put in a tank order to request medical services. She's got to put it in to be seen by a doctor or a nurse, somebody there at the jail, and then she's able to get that health care services that she needs. And then there's healthcare providers that will evaluate her. Now, I was live tweeting and posting live updates when this was all happening. Let me tell you what the judge said to the jurors as they came in. He said, "I'm embarrassed to tell you because I've never had this come up in my entire career. Something else has come up now, and we're unable to proceed with jury selection as planned. The situation is such that we won't be able to resume until Wednesday morning. I hate to ask you guys to do this, and I apologize." He again apologized. The jurors didn't seem too upset, to be honest with you. I'm sure some were a little annoyed. He asked them all to return Wednesday at 10. He tells them not to look up anything about the case, tells them not to discuss it with anyone. He then says he'll make it up to them. If they make it on the jury, he'll buy them donuts. And one of the ladies in the front row said, "That'll work," as she was leaving, and they all kind of had a laugh. They're taking it in good spirits. Of course, they have no idea what's happening, but you really risk, the longer this goes with these potential jurors, you risk them hearing stuff. You risk people talking to them about it. You risk them going home and Googling something or something coming up on Facebook. The fact that it's drawn out now, and they first were talked about Thursday, then Friday they went down. Now they won't be back until Wednesday. And I spoke with a lot of attorneys today who said if this does not happen Wednesday, it's likely they're going to have a mistrial. They're going to have to let these jurors go and call in a whole new batch unless they can speed up the trial or something. Now, you also think if Lori was sick Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that's 5 days for her to get better and be better by Wednesday. I like what the judge said about sometimes we have to do things when we're unwell. I tell my kids a lot. I have one child who seems to be sick on Monday to Friday in the morning before school, almost daily. But on Saturday and Sunday, this child's never sick. And I can't tell you how many times we've said in our house, a lot of real work in the world is done by people who don't feel well. I heard that quote years ago, that often when we don't feel well, we have to push through. And the judge gave her plenty of opportunity to push through today by having her advisory councils do the jury selection for her, and even narrow it down, even do something with her not there. Now, granted, she does have a right to choose the jury. She is her own attorney. That's where the judge is stuck, because if it was Idaho, she's got attorneys that would, be looking out for her best interest. Not that her attorneys here aren't, but the ones in Idaho are like leading the case. So they, could have done that and could have helped with that selection. Instead, they didn't. And instead, we wait to see what will happen Wednesday. Now, Mike Watkiss was in the courtroom. He's the journalist I've told you about. He claims he's not a doctor, and he had some strong thoughts about what went on in the courtroom today. Here is my interview with Mike. All right, Mike, you were in the courtroom today. What did you think? Is Lori really sick?
Well, I'm not a doctor, Nate, and I want to put that on the record. I am a cynical old cops and robbers reporter. And from that point of view, I got to confess, it seemed like someone who was desperately trying to convince people that she was sick, as opposed to someone who was actually sick.